Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita
Hare Krishna
Gadadhara
Krishna Krishna Krishna
Srivasadi
Ram Ram Ram
Gaura
Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram
Jai
Ram
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta
Hare Krishna Krishna
Jai
Krishna
Shri
Krishna Ram
Krishna
Ram Ram
Chaitanya Prabhu
Hare Hare
Nityananda
Krishna Krishna
Shri
Krishna
Advaita
Ram Ram
Gadadhara
Ram Hare
Srivasadi Gaura
Krishna
Bhakta Vrindam
Hare Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram Ram Ram
Hare Krishna everyone.
Krishna 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 Ram
So today is the 29th of
Hare
December.
Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare
So today is 29th of December. It is Friday. It is Pausha Masa or Narayana Masa, Krishna Paksham, and this is it is a Taviya Tithi. So there are no events today. So we shall quickly enter into Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, so the Goswami is narrating to the Savanaka sages about from the Parikshit Maharaj side. So on one side, Shemika Rishi, he is offering his prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to forgive his son's mistakes. And then later on, Suta Goswami concluded that the devotees of the Lord, so they see everything in equal. So they do not affect with the dualities of this material world. So that is from the Shemik Rishi side. And from the Parikshit side, so Parikshit, he is now worrying about whatever the thing he has done towards the Brahmana. Just I acted like a uncivilized person. And then, so when he was thinking like that, महीपतिषु अत तत्कर्म गर्ह्यं विचिन्तयन् आत्मकृतं सुधर्मणाः अहो मया नीचम् अनार्यवत् कृतं निरागसि ब्रह्मणि गूढतेजसि. I have done a great mistake towards a Brahmana who is very powerful, and I acted just like a anaryavat, like a uncivilized person. So in such a way, Parikshit is been thinking, and so with that thinking, so he's expecting some great calamity also to come upon him because for the insulting a Brahmana. So Suta Goswami is saying like that, and Parikshit wanted that calamity to come very quickly so that he would not perform any more similar kind of offenses towards the Brahmanas. And it will be kind of a repentance for him as well. Pashat, that is Pashatapa or Prayashitta. So likewise, Sutta Goswami says, so we are in the first canto, chapter 19, verse number 2. Dhruvam tato me krudadeva helana Dhrutyayam vyasanam nati dirghat Tadastu kamam hi aghanishkrutaya me Yata na kuryam punareva madha Dhruvam tato me krutadeva helanat Dhruvam tato me krutadeva helanat. So Dhruvam, it is so meaning of the Dhruvam is sure and certainly. Tato me krutadeva helanat. And because whatever the thing I have done, krutadeva helanat, and that kind of because of disobeying the orders of the Lord, that is insulting the Brahmanas. Dhruvam tato me krutadeva helanat. Dhrutyayam vyasanam nati dirgat. Dhrutyayam Vyasanam, it's a very difficult calamity. Na ati dirghat, not very long, in a short time. Tadastu, and it would happen. Tadastu, let it be. So the great calamity to come upon him. Duratyam Vyasanam Nath Dirpa Tadastu. Kamam hi aga nishkrutaye. Kamam hi aga nishkrutaye me. So this kamam, desire without any reservations, that calamity, he wanted that calamity to come upon him. Certainly, that aga nishkrutaye, this is the getting free from that sinful activity. Getting free from that sinful activity. This is prayashitta. Tadastu kamam hi aga nishkrutaye me. Yatana kuryam punareva madha. Yatana kuryam. So that he will not do it again, similar kind of offenses again, so that his prayashita will be successful. So likewise, he wanted to receive that calamity quickly upon him. Yatana kuryam punareva punaha evam adha. It is directly to come upon him, that kind of calamity. So he is desiring for it. Tadastu kamam. So that aganishkrutayami, so that his sinful activity will be that is kind of a prayashitta. Dhruvam tato me krutadeva herana duratyayam vyasanam nati dirgat tadastu kamam hi aganishkrutayami yata na kuryam punareva madha. The translation for this was, the king Parikshit thought, due to my neglecting the injunctions of the Supreme Lord, I must certainly expect some difficulty to overcome me in the near future. I now desire without reservation that the calamity come now, for in this way I may be freed of the sinful action and not commit such an action again. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Lord enjoins that Brahmanas and cows must be given all protection. The Lord is himself very much inclined to do good to Brahmanas and cows. Go Brahmana hitayecha. Maharaja Parikshit knew all this, and thus he concluded that his insulting a powerful Brahmana was certainly to be punished by the laws of the Lord, and he was expecting something very difficult in the very near future. He therefore desired the imminent calamity to fall on him, and not on his family members. A man's personal misconduct affects all his family members. Therefore, Maharaja Parikshit desired the calamity to fall on him alone. By suffering personally, he would be restrained from future sins. And at the same time, the sin which he had committed would be counteracted so that his descendants would not suffer. That is the way a responsible devotee thinks. The family members of a devotee also share the effects of a devotee's service unto the Lord. And Maharaja Prahlada saved his demon father by his personal devotional service. A devotee son in the family is the greatest boon or blessing of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, Parikshit, he is thinking, he also knows the rules of the Supreme Personality of Godhead about the Chaturvanya, and Brahmanas are in the top, in the Tesham Brahmana Uttamaha. So this is Tato Chatvaraha, Tato Varna Chatvaraha, Tesham Brahmana Uttamaha. So this is Brahmanas are the best in the Chaturvanyam. So they are the head of the society. And here, Go Brahmanitayecha, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmanitayecha. That is, Krishna is always well-wisher of the cows and Brahmanas. So Parikshit knows very well. And if anything comes upon him through the Brahmanas, it will be very difficult situation. So mostly it needs to be avoided. But here, Parikshit, he did by mistake. It is not in the ordinary way, but he was stuck with hunger and thirst. Now still, but he is expecting some calamity upon him. So, and also sometimes previously also when we see, I have mentioned some glimpse of it. Na Brahmadanda, the Diti Maharani, she also prays that when her children, Hiranyakshipu and Hiranyaksha were to be killed, at the time she also desires that my children does not come upon the Brahmana's wrath. Let them be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am very happy with that, but not come under the wrath of a Brahmana. Likewise, न ब्रह्मदण्डदग्धस्य न भूतभैदस्य च नारकाशानि गृह्णन्ति यां यां योनिमसौ गतः. And wherever they take birth in the wombs of any mother, either it could be animals or human or anything, they will not be adored by their parents. Ma kuldat brahmanat prabho. So Brahmanas should not be taking any revenge or anger towards my children. Likewise, Diti Maharani prays. And this Jaya and Vijaya, when they're taking their bodies as a Hiranyakshipu and Hiranyaksha, before that itself, in the Vaikuntha, they are also offering their prayers to the Kumaras, saying that Mavo Nutapakalaya Bhavat Smritigno Moho Bhavedi Hatano Vrajito Ado Adaham Bhuyad Agoni. So this whatever the sin they have done, it is not actually they were doing their duty. Bhuya Dagoni Akaribihi Bhagwadbihi Akare Dhando. Swaraheranam Apyashesham. That is Swaraheranam Apyashesham. They have insulted, so but still they were receiving without any saying any single word opposite to the Brahmanas. So here what we understand is from the situation Maharajan Parikshit, he knows well aware of all the courts of the laws of the Lord. So he was expecting some very difficult in the near future. So if this is also one of our 10 offenses, one should not be offensive to the any of the Vaishnavas. That is also there, Vaishnavas and Brahmanas. But a devotee, he sees all the devotees and everyone, all the living entities with the equal vision. That is furthermore. That is furthermore. So this is also Dvishitaha Parakaye Mam. So Kapila Bhagavan says, Dvishitaha Parakaye Mam Maino Bhinnadarshinaha. If one is offering all his prayers to the Lord and at the same time he is envious towards the other living entities, Bhuteshu Baddhavairasya Namanasyantim Ruchati, he will not be peaceful at all. Even though he is in the temple, but he is envious towards other devotees, somewhere or other, he will not be peaceful in the heart. Namanasyantim Ruchati. But here, Parikshit, he is reflecting what he has done. So he is expecting all kinds of in the bigger imminent calamity to fall on him and not on his family members. And Prabhupada mentions here, a devotee, but personally he would be restrained from the future sins. At the same time, the sin which he had committed would be counteracted so that his descendants would not suffer. He doesn't want to pass any bad deeds to his family members. That is the responsible devotee's thoughts. At the same time, he will also give all the good effects of his devotional service to all his generations, like Prahlad Maharaj. Okay, likewise, Prabhupada is also mentioning it is the greatest boon for or blessing of the Lord to the family. Okay, that is from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Parikshit is now regretting and expecting some calamity upon him. ध्रुवं ततो मे कृतदेव हेरणा दुरत्ययं व्यसनं नाति दीर्घात् तदस्तु कामं हि अगनिष्कृताय मे यथा न कुर्यं पुनरेव मद्धा. Okay, that is from Srimad Bhagavatam. We shall quickly enter into Srila Prabhupada's daily letter. So today it is letter to Vamana Deva. It is tiny letter, November 23, 1969, London. Can I request any dear devotees to read this tiny letter?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I read please?
Yes, Mataji, please. Yeah.
My dear Vamanadev, please accept my blessings. I'm so glad to receive your letter dated November 16th, 1969, and thank you very much for your opening a branch at St. Louis so promptly. Now both you and your wife are trained how to arrange for maintaining a temple and center. Please do it nicely. The beginning is sounding so hopeful that I am sure very soon your center will be one of the first-class preaching places of our society. Of course, not immediately, but you will have another responsibility to send me something for my maintenance as the others are sending. There is no pressure, but when you find convenience, you can also help in that way. Please keep me informed about your progressive march in St. Louis. Kindly offer my blessings in Dira Darcy. I hope this will meet you both in good health. Ever well wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Any takeaway points, Mataji?
Just that he's encouraging his disciples to set up centers for preaching, and that it also takes time, and he's also requesting for something for his maintenance. I suppose that's how he traveled and everything. So that's my assumption.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. It's a small one, but yeah, there is also a takeaway point. Thank you, Mataji. Any other comments, dear devotees? So this is during the Prabhupada's time. So Prabhupada was, it is for book distributions and printing the books. There is so much of management cost also. But nowadays, so we need to establish by all or through our endeavors and support the society wherever it is needed, somewhere or other. And everything is now the maintenance is by their own centers. Okay, that is my takeaway. And from the announcements point of view, so tomorrow morning we have got Bhagavatam recitation in the morning after our daily japa session. That is 18th chapter recitation. And tomorrow evening we have got a Krishna Katha regular Bhagavad Gita Sangha at 7 p.m. And also just a reminder, on 31st of night, Debashish Prabhuji and some devotees are interested to gather in the temple for the night Sankirtan for the New Year perspective. If any devotees are in the temple, so just kindly associate with other Sangha member. It's a kind request. And also the devotees. So for tomorrow's morning recitation of 18th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, so some devotees have opted for it. So kindly, whoever has not selected those options, kindly select to recite. Yeah, after recitation, if still if we have time, then we cover a little bit of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is Shloki Bhagavata, the first shloka of the Shloki Bhagavata. We will cover a little bit. It has got longer purport, and at least we will cover 1 or 2 paragraphs. Yeah, that's all from the announcements perspective. And dear devotees, if you have got anything or to share, on Krishna consciousness or any events, kindly share. Otherwise, we shall move on to the next part of program, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Today is the last session from the TLC perspective, but it may be further communications may be updated later on after this. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, if you unshare, then I can share.
Sure. Okay, thank you everyone. So we shall move on to the next part. Hare Krishna. Yes, ma'am. It is you know.
So I think today is Meena Mataji and Amol Prabhu. So Meena Mataji for this chapter and Amol Prabhu for the subsequent chapter. So Meena Mataji, we're ready whenever you are.
Thank you.
Can you see?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Wait, just 1 second. Teaching to Sanatana Goswami
Mm-hmm.
from the instruction of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, we can understand the science of God as it related to God's transcendental form. His opinion, his devotional service, indeed, everything will be explained to Sanatana Goswami by the Lord himself. First, Sanatana fell at the feet of the Lord and which with great humility asked about his own real identity. I was born I was I was born in a lower family, Sanatan said. My associations are all abandoned and I am the rich rich of mankind. I was suffering in the dark well of material enjoyment and I never learned the actual goal of my life. Indeed, I do not even know what is beneficial for me. Although in the mundane sphere I was what is known as a greatly learned man. I am in fact such a fool that I also think I am a learned. You have accepted me as your servant, and you have delivered me from the entanglement of material life. Now please tell me what my duty is in the liberated state. From the plea we can understand that liberation is not the final word in perfection. There must be activity in liberation. Sanatan clearly says, you have saved me from the entanglement of material existence. Now, after liberation, what is my duty? Kindly explain it to me. Sanatan further inquired, Whom am I? Who am I? Why are the fearful miseries always given me trouble? And finally, please tell me how I can be relieved from the material and entanglement. I do not know how to question you about advancement in spiritual life, but I beg that you kindly merciful let me know everything I should know. This is the process of accepting a spiritual master. One should approach a spiritual master, humble, submit to him, and then inquiry from him about one's spiritual progress. The Lord was pleased by Sanatan's submissive behavior and he replied, You have already been blessed by Lord Krishna, and therefore you know everything and are free from all the miseries of material existence. You even thought you, you even though due to your Krishna's consciousness you have naturally achieved the grace of Krishna and are then already conversed with everything. Because you are a humble devotee, you are asking me to confirm what you have already realized. This is very nice. These are the characteristics of a true devotee. In the Naradiya Puran, it is said that by the grace of the Lord, one who is very serious about developing Krishna consciousness has his desire to understand Krishna fulfilled very soon. You are a suitable person to protect the devotional service of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continues, therefore it is my duty to instruct you in the science of God, and I will explain everything to you step by step. It is the duty of a disciple to inquire about his con- constitutional positions where approaching a spiritual master in conformity so that spiritual process. Sanatan has already asked, what am I? And why I am suffering from the threefold miseries. The threefold miseries are called Adhyatma, Adhyatmika, Adi, Adi, Adivuttika and Adidevika. The word Adi Adhyatmika refers to the miseries caused by the body and mind. Sometimes a living entity suffers physically and sometimes he is distressed mentally. Both are Adhyatmika miseries. We experience these miseries even in the womb of our mother. In in general, there are many types of miseries that take advantage of the delicate human body and give us pain. Miseries inflicted by other living entities are called adyat- adibhutika. For example, bed bugs can make us misery while we are sleeping. Cockroach can also sometimes give us a pain. And there are other living entities born on different planets who can cause us miseries. As far as the Adivika miseries are concerned, these originated with the demigod of the higher planet. For instance, we sometimes suffer from severe cold weather, from thunderbolt, or from earthquake, tornadoes, drought, of other natural disaster. In any case, we are always suffering from one or more of these three kinds of miseries. Sanatan inquiry was therefore an intelligent one. What is the position of the living entities? He asked. Why are they always undergoing these three kinds of miseries? Sanatan had admitted his weaknesses. Although he was known by the masses of people as a greater learned man, and he actually was higher learned, Sanskrit scholar. And although he accepts these designations, he did not know what his constitutional position was or why he was subject to the threefold miseries. Appre- Approaching a spiritual master is not just a fashion, but it is necessary for one who is seriously conscious of the material miseries and who wants to be free of them. It is the duty of such a person to approach a spiritual master. In the regard, we should note Arjuna's similarly circumstances in the Bhagavad Gita. When he was perplexed by so many problems involving whether to fight or not, he accepted Lord Krishna as his spiritual master. As with Lord Chaitanya instructions Sanatan Goswami, the Bhagavad Gita is also a case of the supreme spiritual master instruction. His disciple about the conse- conse- constitutionally position of the living entity. In the Bhagavad Gita, we are informed that the constitutional nature of the individual and the entity is spiritual soul. He is not matter. A spiritual soul, he is part and parcel of the supreme soul, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. We also learn that it is the duty of the spiritual soul to surrender to the supreme soul, for only then can he be happy. The last instruction of the Bhagavad Gita is that the spiritual soul should surrender completely unto the Supreme Soul Krishna, and that way realize happiness. Here also, Lord Chaitanya, answering the question of Sanatan, repeats the same truth. There is a difference. However, here Lord Chaitanya does not give the information about the spiritual soul that is already described in the Bhagavad Gita. Rather, he began from the point where Krishna ended his instruction. It is accepted by great devotee that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, and as such he began his instruction to Sanatan from the point where he ended his instruction to Arjuna in the Gita. Your constitutional position is that you are pure living soul. The Lord told Sanatan, your material body is not your real self, nor is your mind your real identity, nor your intelligence, nor your false ego. Your identity is that of an eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Your position is that you are transcendental. The superior energy of Krishna is spiritual in constitutions, and the inferior external energy is material. Since you are between the material energy and the spiritual energy, your position is marginal. Belonging to the marginal potency of Krishna, you are simultaneously one with and different from him. Because you are a spirit, you are not different from Krishna. But because you are only a minute minute but partic- particle of Krishna, you are different from him. These simulations oneness and difference always exists in the relationship between the living entity and Supreme Lord. From the fact that the living entity are always in the marginal position, these conceptions of simulationally one and different can be understood. The living entity is just like a molecular partic- part- particle of sunshine, whereas Krishna is the living blazing sun itself. Lord Chaitanya also compared the living entity to spark in a fire, and the Supreme Lord to the blazing fire itself. In this connection, the Lord cite a verse from the Vishnu Puran. Ekadesa Sitvashangar Rutna Visasna Yatha Parasya Brahmana Saktis Tatha Dam Ekalam Jagat. Everything manifested within this cosmic world is but the energy of the Supreme Lord as fire situated in one place spread its illuminations and heat all around. So the Lord, although situated in one place in the spiritual world, manifested his different energy everywhere. Indeed, the whole cosmic creation is but a manifested of his various energies. Lord Chaitanya continued citing the Vishnu Puran. The Supreme Lord original energy is transcendental and spiritual, and the living entity are part and parcel of that energy. There is a third energy, however, called the material energy, which is covered by the cloud of ignorance. This energy, which is material nature, is divided into three modes: uh, gunas, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Lord Chaitanya then quoted another verse from the Vishnu Puran 1.3.2, the effect that all in inconceivable energy reside in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the whole cosmic manifestations act due to those energies. The Lord also said that the living entity is known as the Kshetra, Kshetragna, Kshetragna, or the knower of the field of activities. This is confirmed in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna describe the body as the field of activity and the living entity as the kshetrana, the knower of that field. Although the living entity is constitutionally conversant with the spiritual energy or has the potency to understand it, he is covered by the material energy and consequently believes himself to be the body. This false identification is called false ego. Duelled by the false ego, the belvedere living entity in material existence passes through different bodies and suffer various kinds of miseries. Knowledge of the living entity through projection is posed to different extents by different types of living entities. In other words, it is to be understood that the living entity is part and parcel of the spiritual energy of Supreme Lord. Because the material energy is inferior, man has man has the ability to get free from the covering of this material energy and utilize the spiritual energy. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that in the conditional state, the superior energy, the living entity, is covered by the inferior energy. Due to this covering, the living entity is subjected to the miseries of the material world and in proportion to know how much he is covered, he suffers material miseries. Those who are a little enlightened suffer less, but on the whole, everyone is subject to material miseries due to being covered by the material energy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also quoted from the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in which it is stated that earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego all combine to form the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. But the Supreme Energy is the real identity of the living being, and it is because of the energy that the whole material world functions. The cosmic manifestation, which is made of the material element, has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy. The living entity, the conditional life of the living entity, is due to forgetfulness of the relationship with the Supreme Lord in the superior energy. When that relationship is forgotten, conditional life is the result only when a man divides his real identity as the eternal servitor to the Lord does he become liberated. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Meena Mataji, very beautiful. Can you please, there's so much again in this, there's so much nectar. Can you please talk us through some of the key points here?
Yeah, it's very nice key point, like, said, first of all, Sanatan Goswami has said that, he is fallen soul, and, and he just said, like, I'm coming from from lower family, and, he just gave his identity and said, oh, look, I'm so he just gave his identity, and he just said, I'm like, yeah, he said, I'm a full man and I'm rich and I'm like, all these things. He said, I'm suffering in the dark well of material enjoyment and all this. We just talked to the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he just asked that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give some, like, knowledge, please tell me what is the duty in the liberation state, what he has to do, and he's just asking the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about, like, about what is perfection and his liberation state. Yeah, and then he just Sanatan, like Goswami also said that you have saved me from entanglement of material existence. Now, after what is my duty, and he's just asking that, what is my duty and what should I have to do, and further inquiry, who am I and why are the miseries always giving me trouble, and all these questions he's just asking. And yet he also said that, like, we should, as a spiritual, we have to have a spiritual master, and we are entitled to ask this question to our spiritual master. And then Lord is pleased by us, like hearing the question from the Sanatan Goswami, and he said that, like, you know, he just said, like, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that you are blessed from the Krishna and you have all this knowledge, but yet because you have asked me, I will tell you a few things. And then he just said, then he's just giving few, like, you know, from Narayan Puran, and just talk about from the Narayan Puran and few other things. And he also, like, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yeah, and then I said my duty is like, you know, I have to tell you what, like, you know, you are the blessed with the Krishna, but still I will tell you what is suitable, what is requirement, you know, and all these things. And then he just talk about the human earth. There are three miseries, like Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, and Adi Devika, and we just talk about all this, like what is role for the Adhyatmika and what is role for the, like, in Adi Bhautika and Adi Devika. Yeah, so I just and then we just explain about all these miseries, how is impact to, like, you know, to the human, and what is its role. And then Sanatan again asked the question that what is the position of the living entity? Why are they always undergoing these three kinds of misery? And we just ask more the question about this misery. Why even, like, you know, why is man going with this misery? And then he also admiring that he has weaknesses. Yeah. But then they was also mentioned that approaching the spiritual master is not a fashion, but it is serious. So it is for one who is serious and conscious of material miseries and who wants to be free of them. So it is very important, the spiritual master who can guide us. And then we just talk about, like, Bhagavad Gita, like, you know, and in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, like, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said that, you know, he accepted Lord Krishna. Yeah, so when Arjuna was confused that what should he has to do, you know, during that whether to fight or not, at that time he accepted Krishna as spiritual master, and he just said, like, you know, and he happy to whatever Krishna instruction he was want to do as was Krishna instruction. And then Goswami, the Bhagavad Gita is also a case of the supreme spiritual master. Yeah. So and then it just in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said that Bhagavad Gita is and then in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said at the end of the chapter that who will soul come to him, like, you know, there will be, like, you know, they will get real happiness. So, but the Lord Chaitanya is the Krishna himself, so he has talked more about than whatever Krishna has finished in Bhagavad Gita. So he has just talked more about, yes, like, you know, so whatever Arjuna instructed Arjuna in the Gita, he just talked more than that, and he just talked about and then he just talked about this few things from the Vishnu Purana, and there's something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. That's really beautifully explained. So again, like, really key principle teachings of the Lord, that, like, everything Mataji just said, like, so lovely, and summarized it in such a lovely way, that we are that we're simultaneously one and different, but a relationship between us and the Lord always exists. And that even though we're different, we still, as marginal potencies, even though we're different, we are a minute particle of the sunshine of the Lord. So unless we're connected with him, we can't really experience happiness. And then obviously the analogy between the being the spark of the fire and the ray of the sun, and that the material energy is again talking about the goodness, passion and ignorance. So the more connected we are to the Lord, the less we are in connection with the material energy, because the marginal potency that we are, we can move between the two. So the more we are in Lord's energy, the kind of better for our spiritual life, and to make sure that we're not in a miserable condition. And then Kshetragyana, the Noah. So the Kshetragyana is they know all the activities, and it's also that when we come into the body, we identify with the false ego, and the real ego is to be the servant of the Lord. But in a body, we obviously the development of I'm this, I'm that happens. But our real identity is that we're part and parcel of Lord, we're servitor to Him, and that liberates us from the inferior energy back into the energy of the Lord. And then only when a man receives his real identity as the eternal servitor of the Lord, that's when he becomes liberated. So that's what we aim for, because at the point, that's when we're liberated, when we know our real identity and not our false identity. And even if we think about it practically, like if we think we're the servant of the, even if we believe we are the servant of the Lord, then nothing really matters. So all our relationships get better because we're just serving, because we're serving because of the Lord. If we go to work, we're working because we are serving the Lord. If we're eating, we're serving the Lord. Whatever we're doing, if we're eating prasadam, it's because we've offered it to the Lord. If we're singing, dancing, whatever we're doing, then it's because we are a servant of the Lord, and therefore we're just behaving like a servant, not as like a master, and therefore we're just doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. Would anyone like to add anything to that before we move on?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, so there are a few things like in the Bhagavad Gita and also in Bhagavatam. So as a Krishna is the spiritual existence. Swayam Yonihi. So this is he is the biggest, the spiritual effulgence we are part and parcel of. And Swayanishu ekam ekam nana pratiyate. This is Swayanishu yata jyotihi. Swayanishu yata jyotihi ekam nana pratiyate. So the spiritual existence is only one in the spiritual. And then whenever he is coming down, it is reflecting in a different prakriti staha, in a different bodies, but the spiritual quality is the same. And also Krishna in the bhautu sargo lokesmin kshara akshara evacha. So kshara sarvani bhutani Potasto Akshara Uchyate, and all the infallible living entities, they are in the spiritual. And these are the living separated ones. They fall into this material world and covered by the material existence with different bodies. So that is one point. I just wanted to bring those things from what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying to Sanatana Goswami.
So we are covered.
We are covered by the mind, intelligence, ego, and this earth, water, fire, air, and space. These are the 8 elements covering the spirit soul, because of we are separated from the Lord due to the unlawful desires.
Is that because we have a body? Yeah.
Because we have got unlawful desire, we have separated, we came far away from the Lord.
Okay.
And that's why this material nature covered us with the different kinds of bodies based on the desires. So whenever this unlawful desire is completely taken out, and then we will be and we know the path towards Krishna, then we'll go back and join Krishna. Swayonishu yata jyotihi.
So basically, at the point of death, if we don't receive another body, that means we've been successful.
That doesn't say it is successful. So, but here, once we don't receive any material body, that means we get our spiritual body, but we will still have a tendency to fall down because we have not gone nearer to the Lord.
Okay.
That is the Brahman realization, Brahmiti.
Okay.
Just like
So
we are
till
in
we're like standing face to face with God, or our soul is, or our spiritual body is, that's the point that we can say, okay, this is the right place. This is it.
Yes, when we just like when we come to the country, and country has got a capital, and within the capital there is a president palace or king's palace. When we are in the king's palace, we know that we are secured. So king has got very good security, all kinds of facilities, nothing to worry about. And if I am a servant of the king, I don't have to worry about anything. Whatever king enjoys, I also enjoy. But within the same kingdom, still I am also existing, but I am very far away to the palace. And for example, at the edges of the country, and I may fall down, maybe going out of the country so that other people may catch me, saying that you are not belong to our country, something like that. So likewise, when we fall from the spiritual, going far away from the Lord, we may tend to be absorbed by material nature again. So
Okay.
that is it. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Meena Mataji, lovely as well. There's so much nectar in that, and some of the teachings we've heard before, but it's like in this they're kind of very summarized, and we're repeating some of the things that we've learned, so that it becomes more deeply ingrained in us. Right. Okay. So Amol Prabhu, let's move on.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Chapter 4, The Wise Man. Since no one can trace the history of the living entity's entanglement in material energy, Lord Chaitanya said that it is beginningless. By beginningless, he meant that conditioned life exists prior to the creation. It simply becomes manifest during and after the creation. Due to forgetfulness of his real nature, the living entity, although spirit, suffers all kinds of miseries in material existence. It should be understood that there are also living entities who are not entangled in this material energy, but are situated in the spiritual world. They are called liberated souls and are always engaged in Krishna consciousness, devotional service. The activities of those who are conditioned by material nature are taken into account, and in their next life, according to these activities, they are offered different grades of material bodies. Thus, in the material world, the conditioned spirit soul is subjected to various rewards and punishments. When he is rewarded for his righteous activities, he is elevated to the higher planets, where he becomes one of the many gods. And when he is punished for his abominable activities, he is thrown into various hellish planets, where he suffers the miseries of material existence more acutely. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a very nice example of this punishment. Formerly, a king used to punish a criminal by having him dunked in a river, raised up again for breath, and then again dunked in the water. Material nature punishes and rewards the individual living entity in just the same way. When he is punished, he is dunked in the water of material miseries, and when he is rewarded, he is taken out of it for some time. Elevation to the higher planets or to a higher status of life on this planet is never permanent. One must again come down to be submerged in the water. All this is constantly going on in this material existence. Sometimes one is elevated to higher planetary systems, and sometimes one is thrown into the hellish condition of material life. In this regard, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited a nice verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37 that is part of the instructions of Narada Muni to Vasudeva, the father of Krishna. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshitah syad ईशाद अपेतस्य विपर्ययो अस्मृतिः तन्माया यतो बुधा अभजेत्तं भक्त्यैकेषां गुरुदेवतात्मा. In this verse, which Narada Muni quotes from the instructions that the 9 Yogendras imparted to Maharaja Nimi, Maya is defined as forgetfulness of one's relationship with Krishna. Actually, Maya means that which is not. Thus, it is false to think that the living entity has no connection with the Supreme Lord. He may not believe in the existence of God, or he may think he has no relationship with God. But these ideas are all illusions or Maya. Due to absorption in this false conception of life, a man is always fearful and full of anxieties. In other words, Maya is the godless concept of life. One who is actually learned in the Vedic literature surrenders unto the Supreme Lord with great devotion and accepts him as the supreme goal. When a living entity forgets the constitutional nature of his relationship with God, he is at once overwhelmed by the external energy. This is the cause of his false ego, his false identification of the body with the self. Indeed, his whole conception of the material universe arises from this false identification with the body, for he becomes attached to the body and its byproducts. To escape this entanglement, he has only to perform his duty, namely, to surrender unto the Supreme Lord with intelligence, with devotion, and with sincere Krishna consciousness. A conditioned soul falsely thinks himself happy in the material world, but if he is favored by an unalloyed devotee, if he hears the unalloyed devotee's instructions, he gives up his desire for material enjoyment and becomes enlightened in Krishna consciousness. As soon as one enters in Krishna consciousness, his desire is for material enjoyment is at once vanquished. He gradually becomes free from material entanglement. There is no question of darkness where there is light. And Krishna consciousness is the light that dispels the darkness of material sense enjoyment. A Krishna conscious person is never under false conception that he is one with God, knowing that he would not be happy working for himself. He engages all his energies in the service of the Supreme Lord and thereby gains release from the clutches of the illusory material energy. In this connection, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted a verse from the Bhagavad Gita 7.14, where Krishna states, Daivi hi esha gunamayi mama maya drachaya mam yevate mam yevaye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. My material energy, composed of the 3 modes of material nature, is very strong. It is very difficult to escape the clutches of the material energy, but one who surrenders unto me is easily freed from the clutches of Maya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on to teach that each and every moment the conditioned soul is engaged in some fruitive activity, He forgets his real identity. Sometimes, when he is tired of material activities, he wants liberation and hankers to become one with the Supreme. But at other times, he thinks that by working hard to gratify his senses, he will be happy. In both cases, he is covered by the material energy. For the enlightenment of such bewildered conditioned souls who are working under a false identification, the Supreme Lord has presented us with voluminous Vedic literature, including the Vedas, the Puranas, and the Vedanta Sutra. These are all intended to guide the human being back to Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further explained that even a conditioned soul is accepted by a spiritual master out of his mercy and is guided by the super soul. The soul can take advantage of the various Vedic scriptures, become enlightened, and make progress in spiritual realization. It is because Lord Krishna is always merciful to his devotees that he has presented all this Vedic literature by which one can understand his relationship with him and can act on the basis of that relationship. In this way, one is gifted with the ultimate goal of life. Actually, every living entity is destined to understand his relationship with the Supreme Lord and ultimately to reach him. The execution of duties to attain this perfection is known as devotional service. And in maturity, such a devotional service becomes love of God, the true goal of life for every living being. The living entity should not desire success in religious rituals, economic development, or sense enjoyment, or even liberation. One should desire only to achieve the stage of transcendental loving service to the Lord, pure Krishna consciousness. The all attractive features of Lord Krishna help one attain this stage of pure devotional service, and one who engages in the preliminary practices of Krishna consciousness can ultimately realize the relationship between himself and Krishna. So, in this connection, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu related a story from Srila Madhvacharya's commentary on the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 5, 5:10, and 2:13. This story involves the instructions of an astrologer, Sarvajna, to a poor man who came to him to have his future told. When the astrologer saw the man's horoscope, he was astonished that the man was so poor, and he said to him, "Why are you so unhappy? From your horoscope, I can see that you have a hidden treasure left to you by your father. However, the horoscope indicates that your father could not disclose this to you because he died in a foreign place. But now you can search out this treasure and be happy." This story is cited because the living entity is suffering due to his ignorance of the hidden treasure of this his supreme father, Krishna. The treasure is love of Godhead. And in every Vedic scripture, the conditioned soul is advised to find it. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, although the conditioned soul is the son of the wealthiest personality, the personality of Godhead, he does not realize it. Therefore, the Vedic literature is given to him to help him search out his father and his paternal property. The astrologer further advised the poor man, "Don't dig on the southern side of your house to find the treasure, for if you do so, you will be attacked by a poisonous wasp and will be baffled in your efforts to find the treasure."
Okay.
So, search on the eastern side where there is actual light, which is devotional service or Krishna consciousness. On the southern side, there are Vedic rituals. On the western side, there is mental speculation. And on the northern side, there is meditational yoga. The astrologer's advice should be carefully noted by everyone. If one searches for the ultimate goal by the Vedic ritualistic process, he will surely be baffled. Such a process involves the performance of rituals under the guidance of a priest who takes money in exchange for service. A man may think he will be happy by performing such rituals, but this is not true. Even if he does gain some result from them, it is only temporary. His material distresses will continue, so he will never become truly happy by following the ritualistic process. Indeed, his material pangs will increase more and more. The same may be said for digging on the northern side or searching for the treasure of love of Godhead by means of the meditational yoga process. The perfection of this process is to think oneself one with the Supreme Lord, but this merging into the Supreme is like being swallowed by a large serpent. Sometimes a small serpent is swallowed by a large serpent, and merging into the spiritual existence of the Supreme is analogous. While the small serpent is searching after perfection, he is swallowed. This is this is spiritual suicide. On the western side, there is also an impediment in the form of a yaksha, an evil spirit who protects that treasure. This yaksha is jnana yoga, the speculative process of self-realization. The idea is that a hidden treasure can never be found by one who asks the favor of a yaksha to attain it. The result is that one will simply be killed. So while the yogi is practicing meditation is like a small serpent being swallowed by a large serpent. Practicing the speculative process to attain the treasure of love of Godhead is also suicidal. The only possibility then is to search for the hidden treasure on the eastern side, which represents the process of devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. Indeed, the process of devotional service is itself the perpetual hidden treasure, and one who attains to it becomes perpetually rich. One who is poor in devotional service to Krishna is always in the need of material gain. Sometimes he suffers the bites of poisonous creatures and is baffled, and sometimes he follows the philosophy of monism and thereby loses his identity and is swallowed by a large serpent. It is only by abandoning all this and becoming fixed in Krishna consciousness, devotional service to the Lord, that one can actually achieve the perfection of life.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very, very beautifully read. Right, if we go back, can you please talk us through the chapter?
So this chapter is the wise man. So man who is very wise. So where to find the treasure? So that is the conclusion. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Sanatana Goswami about when this spirit soul has fallen into this material existence. That is, no one knows. Prabhupada also says, but one can revive this, the relation between Sambandha Videya Prayojana and attain the final Prayojana and establishing the activities to reach the goal, going back to Godhead. And also here about the different activities, a living entity due to the unlawful desires, he wanted to enjoy himself, so he will fall into material pool with different attain one particular type of body and enjoys. And when he come to some kind of some elevated consciousness human body, then he can revive it. When he offers all of his activities to the Supreme Lord, that will turn into a medicine. Previously, which was a diseased condition, the same disease, the same material, it will turn into a medicine as well. When offering the same, just like a milk, when we take too much of milk, and it will be indigestive. And if the same milk product, that is yogurt, if you take it, that will be easily treated. Similarly, the material activities are a diseased condition of a spirit soul. When we offer the same material activity to Krishna as a devotional service, and that is the medicine to the living entity, will be cured from the material disease. So that is one of the point I could reflect, and that is how even the living entity, wherever he is going down, and he feels he is comfortable. Tasyam salabhate nivritim navirajyate. Wherever yam yonim anurajet, whatever the species of the life, the living entity, he feel very comfortable. Tasyam salabhate nivritim navirajyate. He does not want to come out of, even either it is a pig or an insect or a human being or whatever, a bird, beast, anything, he feels comfortable. So he doesn't come out. And also here it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also quoting about the verse that Narada Muni is speaking to Vasudeva, and what Kadabhajana Muni, that is one of the instructions, Yogen, now 9 Yogendras. So that is the discussion between Navayogendras and Maharajanimi. So, and also here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also brings that how strong this material nature is. So saying that it is Mama Maya Durachaya and Maya Metam Tarintite. So whoever surrenders to Krishna, then Krishna will be, only Krishna will be able to relieve that condition, so not by anyone else. And also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says about the conditioned soul and his fruitive activities. And kind of he sometimes he wanted to come out of these material conditions as a kind of liberation, and also sometimes he bewildered conditioned souls who are working under false identification. For them, Krishna has given Vedas, Puranas, and Vedanta Sutra, different kinds of facilities, so many paths, so that living entity can take advantage. But whereas devotional service is the direct perception. But whether he takes it or not, it is up to his choice. So that is again the relationship that he develops. And further, this relationship with the Supreme Lord, this is ultimately to reach him. Execution of duties. This is Swadharma Charanam Chakya Vidharma Chanevartanam Daiva Labdena Santosha Atmavicharana Chanam. One has to execute his duties regularly, and then free from all kinds of vidharma, and self-satisfied with what he has got, and then surrender to the spiritual master. That way he can progress in the spiritual. And then further the devotional service, which is the treasure. This is also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving the a poor person and the astrologer and his rich father, and where he has kept the treasure. So this is, one should not bewilder about that, the material poorness. Or so this is as long as Sanatana Goswami, when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even the blanket, even the expensive, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was thinking, and Sanatana Goswami understood when he renounced even that blanket and exchanged for the whole blanket. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was happy to be Arjav, simple. Otherwise, anything which is opulent and which is comfortable to the material body, that will be entanglement. Either riches or money or a wealth or a woman. Janma Aishwarya Shri Sutta Sri Bihi Yedamanam Adappuvan Naiva Arhati. These are Naiva Arhati, they are not the qualifications. Tvam Akinchana Gocharam, Krishna is revealed only for the person who is free from, even though he is among all those things, but completely detached from them. For them, he is the Akinchana Gocharam. He revealed himself to those kind of souls. So here, this analogy of this about the poor person, everything is in one side is the Vedic rituals and another side is a Jnana Yoga. Likewise, different kinds of sides, but in the eastern side, there is a devotional service where he can dig and find the treasure of his father, that is the love of Godhead. And this is very beautifully said, and he becomes perpetually rich. It is the eternal, becoming fixed in Krishna consciousness, devotional service to the Lord that can actually achieve the perfection of life, love of Godhead. Likewise, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Sanatana Goswami.
Thank you so much, Amol Prabhu. Just another question. So when Lord Krishna was imparting this knowledge to Krishna, and then when he's as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's he's really fine tuning it to Sanatan Goswami. Is that because Sanatan Goswami and Arjuna were at different levels in their practices, or is it all just, it's all relative and it's all, or is it absolute that the knowledge is the same both ways?
So knowledge, thank you, Mataji. So this here, absolute truth, it is the one and the same. In Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is the warrior who wanted to understand what is right, what is not right, what is duty, what is not duty, what is the right, what is to be elevated in the spiritual life, what would degrade him, and it gives all kinds of answers to his questions, and who is to be understood as the perfect person, who is to be renounced person, and how to work in the when he is engaging in his material duties. Likewise, it gives options to the person who is in the material duties, who is living in a grihastha or a brahmacharya. So likewise, Krishna is giving all kinds of knowledge to him, who is the warrior fighting with the material nature. And whereas Uddhava, he is always companion of the Lord. So his instructions are a bit more highly elevated. That is the love of Godhead. And that starts further higher level. For Arjuna, he has to surrender himself to Krishna. And at the same time, develop the love of Godhead through Manmana Bhavamat Bhakto, and then gradually Sarvadharman Parityajya. And then Krishna is the ultimate goal, and that is the point for a person who is fighting with the material nature. And if he crosses that point, Samah Sarvet Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param Brahma Bodha Prasannatma. At that point onwards, Brahma Bodha Prasannatma surrendering to the Lord, and then he develops more loving relationship with the Lord. Those instructions with Uddhava goes further. That is the Uddhava Gita. So, and Krishna says to Uddhava that I do not like anyone, including Goddess of Lakshmi or Lord Shankara or Brahma or Sankarsana or even myself. O Uddhava, I like you the most. Likewise, he says, Natata me pritama atmayonihi nasankaraha nacha sankarshano na shrihi na evatma cha yata bhavan na evatma cha yata bhavan. Like you, I do not like all these personalities, including me. That is the Uddhava's condition. He is always with Krishna. And he wanted himself in the Vrindavan always, even like a creepers. That is the condition of Uddhava. So the mood is further higher. And when it comes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami, so Sanatana Goswami understand all these things, but he has not practiced. Even though he was born in a Brahmana's family, and he knows those truth, but as part of employment, he engaged himself in the Nawab's kingdom as a prime minister. And later on, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu they met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at once. Later on, they understood their consciousness. It was being awakened. Later on, Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they wanted to get out of those material entanglements. And then coming to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with so much of humbleness, leaving all kinds of opulences. So the renouncement that Sanatana Goswami, though leaving the prime minister position, even though by taking so much of risk, he has come there. And then even he renounced that blanket, that with humbleness in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they know what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching at that point of time. That is only way, that is the love of Godhead, Krishna Prema, that is Krishna consciousness, completely absorbing. And this kind of knowledge, it is the summarizing cream of from the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and what needs to be further for the living entities. So living entities, there are different levels of living entities. One is living entity can develop his consciousness to attain the perfection, to attain the Lord. One is the Sankhya philosophy, and one is the devotional service. So Lokesmin Vividadishta Pura Prokta Mayanaga Sankhya Yogena Yoga Jnana Yogena Sankyanam Karma Yogena Yogina. Krishna says to Arjuna, two paths. One is Sankhya and another one is the Bhakti Yoga. So Sankhya philosophy that explains detaching from the material world step by step, and then meditate on the four-handed form of the Vishnu form, Narayana form. And that way one will be completely freed from the material things and absorbing the Paramatma feature at the form of the Narayana form. Narayana with the four symbols. That way he would attain the perfection. He would not have association with any other people. In a secluded place, he meditate on the Narayana form. That is the execution of devotional service as a single person. But people in the society, they are given opportunity to go to the temple and serve the Lord in his deity form, and at the same time he would need to see all the living entities with an equal vision, and the Lord exists in all the living entities, offer his obeisances to all the living entities. That until that point of time, when he sees the Lord everywhere in all the living entities, until that point he was recommended to do deity worship. But even though he has been engaging in the deity worship throughout his life, but he did not see all the Lord in all other living entities, then still his devotional service is not yet perfect. He has to take birth again. But until that, that is Kapil Bhagavan says, Hitvarcham bhajite modhyat bhasmani eva johoti saha. All his devotional service is useless. Like a ghee is pouring on ashes if he doesn't respect all the living entities equally. So in order to get that one, he has to make friendship with the equal-minded souls and worship the highly elevated consciousness devotees. And at the same time, if there are lesser conscious or neophyte devotees, he has to give a hand to them, help them to elevate their consciousness to bring onto the upper level. So likewise, he sees all the living entities equally, and then understands everything is under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Likewise, he completely absorbs. So still, he would be engaged. So until that point, it is recommended. After that, he can be staying in the temple or going wandering around the world. It doesn't matter. That is the pure devotional service. He can be Parivrajaka wandering around the world, spreading Krishna consciousness to everyone. So that is further. And then once it is done, then he come back to some kind of holy places like Vrindavan Dham and Haridwar, wherever it is, and then he would be relishing in the pastimes of the Lord. That is the Paramahamsa stage. That way, he surrendered his life to the Supreme Lord, attain the perfection. So these are a few things, Mataji, from.
Beautiful. I think you just took us on a whole journey into a glimpse of your world. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to add anything to that?
Hey Krishna Prabhuji, you just talk about the shawl about like in Sanatan Goswami. Can you just give some more on that? Because I understand that when he wear the shawl, Chaitanya Prabhu did not accept him, and then once he has given to somebody, just and then Chaitanya Prabhu accept him, something like that.
The shawl, that was the chapter before, wasn't it? Let me just bring it up.
Oh, this was before. Okay.
Yeah, it was yesterday we read it, didn't we?
Okay.
Let me just bring it up and then people can have a look at it as well.
Day before yesterday, probably.
Could you please repeat your question, Mataji, once again?
I'm sorry, I was not like, I don't know whether this chapter 2, I was not here, so I'm not sure. But like
Mataji, it's this part. This bit. So someone offered him a blanket.
Yeah, and then he has gone, and then I think Chaitanya Prabhu did not accept him, like as when he went to see him, and then once he threw it away or something, and then it's just I heard somewhere the story, but I did not read this.
Yes, you heard it yesterday. Well, it's here. This valuable blanket.
Yeah, he exchanged with a sadhu, another sadhu. And he saw a mendicant washing an old quilt when Sanatana asked him to trade an old quilt for the valuable blanket. The poor mendicant thought that Sanatana was joking with him. And then later on, Sanatana Goswami says, I am serious. Then they have exchanged. So they exchange your torn quilt for this blanket. Finally, the mendicant exchanged his torn quilt for the blanket. And Sanatana returned to the Lord. So, yeah.
And Lord was happy, like it says, where is your valuable blanket? And then he said, you're intelligent enough and you have now exhausted all your attraction for material wealth. In other words, the Lord accepts a person for devotional service only when he completely free from material possessions. I think Mataji is trying to ask this question. The Lord then told Sanatan, it would not look good on you to be a mendicant and beg door to door with such a valuable blanket.
Yes. So previously, Sanatana Goswami mentioned, so I would beg from door to door. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thinking, if you have got a valuable blanket, how can you go and ask? If they may say, ask, you look like a kind of rich person because of your clothing, and they don't give some kind of understanding. It is a bit further inner level of understanding.
Whatever I'm doing to become free from material attachment is all at your mercy. That's what Sanatan replied. And then Lord was very much pleased with him, and they discussed spiritual advancement. So maybe the internal.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I think it's a bit of Sanatan Goswami's internal realization, because, a bit before this happens, Lord just, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just looks at the blank. I mean, he doesn't say anything, that he does not give any instruction for him to, give the blanket. But, I mean, Sanatan Goswami was intelligent enough to understand that, and then he did what he did, like swapping the blanket with mendicant. So it was more of his internal realization. I mean, Lord, I mean, he has given everything before that, but because it was a gift from one of his friend, so he was still clinging on to the blanket. But without even being told, he realized, and then he exchanged it. So it was more of an internal realization, I would say.
Yeah. It's like he's still holding on to something, like even if it's a little bit, it's still something. Like it's like you say, it's a gift from his friend, or or it's something opulent, or it's still something that's keeping him away from the Lord. Is that maybe like at the point of death, like when our body is like put into fire, that we're getting rid of something that is, it's essentially a part of us.
So here, blanket, whenever we have got any valuable thing, if we think it is a valuable, then our heart will be attached to that one. If I think my wife is so beautiful, and then thinking she's my wealth, then when we leave the body, still we have got some attachment. My children, like yata putrachi vittacha pratak matya vibhidete. Pratak matya vibhiyate. Even the body, if I like my body, that is also one kind of attachment. Pratak matya vibhiyate. अपि आत्मत्वेन अभिमतात् पुरुषादेः पुरुषादेः तदा देहादिः. So Purusha, that means the person he thinks, compared to the soul, this body is also his wealth. If he thinks that, and he has got attachment to the body as well. Purushadehe dehadihi tada. So like we have got wealth, we have got children, like we have got a body also. Body is also one of the external element, and that which body which would Tanubhande cha dhurmatihi, and all related to the body is also asat. This is adhruvasya dehasya sanubhandasya dhurmatihi dhruvanyam manyate mohat. Dhruvanyam manyate mohat. And by bewilderment, if we think it is ours, Gurha Kshetra Vasunicha, that is bewilderment, Daiva Mohitaha. So the body, we should not have attachment to our body and anything related to the bodily things. Any small kinds of, here, the blanket is a valuable thing. When we have valuable thing, we have to give attention to it. That is not good. Which would draw our attention from the devotional service. So that is not to deviate from the devotional service. So as minimum as possible, live like that. Arjavena.
So Prabhu, we're talking about like material renunciation here, like for material things, but what's the difference between that and then spiritual renunciation? Or does spiritual renunciation not matter, or does it not occur?
Spiritual, which is elevating our consciousness, that is needed. One side we have to leave the material things, another side we have to get spiritual things.
But then what if people become attached to the spiritual things as well? Like, oh, I chant this many rounds, or I've done this or I've done that. Like, is that also do you know, like how we say Om Tat Sat, or how we you know, after, you know, we say Om Krishna Arpanamastu, we just offer that, even the spiritual. Are we supposed to gather spiritual, or are we supposed to also offer that back to the Lord?
Yeah, offer to that back to the Lord. So this is my material angle is the body, everything is else material, it is attachment to the soul. It is a diseased condition. Now, the same thing when we are offering, this body is not mine, this family is not mine, it belongs to Krishna. I am here just as a God, and this body is Krishna's. I have to use this body in Krishna's service. That the same thing will turn into the spirituality. That is another reflection of the spiritual side, which is the permanent one. Then we do not have any attachment to the body. At the same time, we use as the same body in Krishna service. That was spiritualizing the material stuff.
So do we hold on to that, or do we offer that as well?
We offer that one also to the Lord.
And how is that to be done? Like, is it at the end of each day, or at the end of like when do we, like the end of a year, or when?
This
You know, I
one,
mean, obviously these prayers that we read, they'll always say like, you know, like, I don't know any bhakti, I don't know any this, that. But is that the point of the offering? Is that?
yes, Mataji. So all the prana here, Daihi Diya Vacha Shreya Acharanam Sada. That way, Ekavad Janma Sapalyam. All the time, this body is to be engaged in the Krishna's service, which is always helpful to others' spiritual progress and also ours at the same time. So when we have that Krishna consciousness, why we wake up early in the morning for Mangalacharan prayers? It is for Krishna's sake, to please him. And so even though it is bodily uncomfortable, bodily it is not pleasing, but we still take that one offering to Krishna. So that is where our offering starts and all of our day. And taking prasadam nourish the body which is Krishna's, to be engaged further again, and then later on book distributions, and then bhajans and kirtans, engaging in the services of the Lord, and then giving this body some rest so that it will be useful further again to wake up in the next day morning. So we use this body properly. So we are seeing ourselves separate from the body and engage the body in the devotional service to the Lord. That way, every day when we are thinking, and one day when we think this body is no more useful, and still we are witnessing that body, that this body is no more functional. Oh my dear Lord, it is your wish if you wanted me to renounce this one. When Lord says yes, you can do it, then we leave it and then go back to Lord. As simple as that. It is just work once again. It is the practice of it. That is called Krishna consciousness.
Okay, so is there a point where we see ourselves separate from, even when we're carrying out the functions of spiritual activity, is there a point where we will see ourselves different from the body?
Yes, so that is the point. If I'm seeing that one, I'm in Krishna consciousness. And
Okay, so we're seeing that when it's not, we are not the doer, it's being, is that the where we are an instrument, it's being done through us?
yes.
So like, yeah.
And also Krishna gives, there are 5 reasons. Karta, karma, and also the some kind of required instruments for that, and the Supreme Soul, and then one more thing is that there are 5 reasons Krishna gives to Arjuna. when he was explaining to in the 17th chapter or 18th chapter in the beginning. So these are the different things. So we need to make sure that we are just acting as a instrument only. But especially in the Vaishnavas, if one Vaishnava is saying something, we understand that Krishna is speaking. Sambhodayanti aham iva aham upahutastaihi. So thinking that Lord only speaking through another Vaishnava. And I simply accept it and execute it, even though it may not be possible for me by my endeavor, but because other Vaishnava said, it would be possible because Lord speaks through their mouth, so it will be possible. If I bring by my own stuff and my own endeavor, it may not be possible because other Vaishnava said, I will become instrument in those words. Then things will become perfect. That's why we respect all the Vaishnavas and so much of respect. And this is Dandavat Pranam, my humble obeisances. I am your humble servant. Likewise, even though sometimes we say, I'm your humble servant, but when I say something, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do these things. So how come that humbleness would come? So these kind of things we have to reflect in our life. Then we are simply instruments. If some Vaishnava says, if there is circumstances are possible, without my personal reservation, I engage with that service. If the circumstances are cooperating. If I put my ego, I can't do it. If I put ego back and then I simply submit myself as an instrument for another spiritual master's instructions or another Vaishnava as a servant, then everything will be perfect.
But then I mean, essentially we'll be surrounded by Vaishnavas. So why would we take one? Is it that we focus on one person's instruction? And the other thing of this is, and I think maybe like for some people that are actually quite generous, and that they will naturally do these things because they feel that need, they don't get exploited, because sometimes we do kind of see that in, I've seen it not.
So that is once again where we keep ourselves so that our spiritual life would be progress. That is our choice. You can choose your own spiritual master, and you can renounce spiritual master when he is not fit to give any instructions. That is Prabhupada also says.
Yeah. But like, what about, it's not just spiritual master, but like, say if you went to a temple and then, this isn't your spiritual master necessarily saying this. This is like, say you're working in a kitchen or something, and one person saying one thing and another person saying another thing, and then you get someone else comes along and then they tell you something else, and then they tell you someone else tells you something else, and then you meet another Vaishnava, they tell you something else, and it's becoming like a khichdi as opposed to like any meaningful. And then that person, who's kind of soft-hearted, kind-hearted, they want to do, and then they're getting pulled, and then even physically sometimes it's not conducive, and then instead of a service it starts becoming a disservice. And then I just see this a lot, like,
Yes,
I don't know if others have experienced this, I don't know, but I've seen it, I've heard it as well.
How does this would come into in our life? It is once again based on our expectation. I wanted to engage in so many services at the same time. Our mind is fluctuating. So Krishna creates that kind of environment. Then we think. So once again, this is we should not find fault with any other Vaishnavas as well. Why so many people are giving so many everything within our purity only, in our thoughts only. That's why everyone are acting as instruments. Because I wanted to do multiple things at the same time, even though it is not possible. Then the situation may be coming like that. Later on, I think, oh, I wanted to only one instruction because I have got only time and only one body and two hands. So this is, we need to understand that one. So keep our mind peaceful. I can execute one task at a time, peacefully and but attentively. When we are in that state, and all other circumstances will adjust automatically for us. This is once again our state of purity, what our mind is thinking.
So is it better to be engaged in one service or multiple?
It is based on our capacity, how much we can love Krishna with activity to be performed with love. Bhakti upakritam asnami pretatmanah. Whenever we do with love, it is not we show off that we can do many things at the same time. It is not for that purpose. We are doing the love. Even though one or two activities are also attentively with lovingly, if we engages ourselves, that is sufficient.
So yeah, it comes down to the question, doesn't it? Is it quality or quantity?
Yeah, quality is needed, and later on, when the capacity is increased, we can increase the as much as we can, so that without compromising the quality. But whenever it comes to the regulative principles, chanting of 16 rounds, the 16 rounds it is fixed. There, sometimes we have to chant attentively. Sometimes we may do courtesy chanting rounds because of lack of time, and so many other we are occupied by so many other activities as well. That way, we have to leave sometimes.
Okay, and as today is our kind of finale here, not finale, but just this in terms of this week, and the new, well, I know it's not our new year, but as the 1st of January is about to approach, maybe we can go around, if everybody is happy with this, maybe we can go around and I'm just going to share something else. Maybe we can go around and ask everybody. So share screen. We can ask everybody. We can ask everybody the following question. Where are we? We can ask everybody the following question of one character thing that they would not like to change, like one thing they would like to develop in the new year, so that they can please the Lord, and one way in which we're going to convey also what our need is, like one way we also want to be loved as well, like, so it's important to like do both, to receive and to give. So if we can all think about, I think it's somewhere here. If we can think of 3 ways in which we are going to further enhance our relationship with the Lord in 2024 and to remain free from the clutches of Maya. So if we can all say 3 things. One thing is what characteristic we would like to develop or to work on. Number 2 is a character that we appreciate another to give us, and be open about it. Like I want people to be honest with me because that helps me, or so also something that we want to receive, like that's important for our own growth. And then 3 ways in which we want to further enhance our relationship with the Lord in 24. so that we remain as kind of as free, and we can achieve this level of freedom, because then therefore we're not engrossed in the material energy as much. So if everyone's happy with that, can we please go around and maybe speak about that? So can we start with Meena Mataji, please?
Can you please repeat? Oh God.
Okay. So the last one is 3 ways in which you're going to further enhance your relation. 3 things that you're going to do. Could be really small things, or just that you're going to do to remain free from this clutch of Maya. And then one characteristic that you would like to develop, or at least really I really want to focus on being more compassionate, whatever it is. And that one quality that your own characteristic, your own thing that you want to focus on, one thing that you want, want to receive from others, and it's you have to convey, like Lord Chaitanya is conveying to us that he doesn't like hypocrisy, so therefore we shouldn't be at least in his service we should try to remain free from hypocrisy. So in the same way, we'll also have certain things, like as people, there's this, I really can't accept this, I don't like it when people lie, or I don't like it when people are cruel to me, whatever it is, like one expectation you have for yourself as well, like that you want to receive, because I think we give, but we should also, I don't know if this is a personal thing, but if you don't, and again, this might be more psychology than, I don't know if it's devotional, but if you don't set your boundary, then if you say, if it makes you weaker, I think, in people that don't set boundaries, they make their situation hard for themselves. Like, I'm just going to use an example of domestic violence. Because somebody doesn't say, oh, don't hit me, or that I'm not accepting that, then therefore the hitting goes on, because they're not saying stop, they're not setting their boundary. So in that, and that's just an example, but one thing that we expect from others also is important to share something that is important for us as well. So I think that will help us grow. That one is I think it will personally help us to grow in our devotion to the Lord, because we, as much as we're respecting the other, we're respecting ourselves as well. And